she's not like, she's not terrible at anything, but she's not particularly special at anything, and she's not good enough at everything else to make up for not having a specialty. How's the EX Djeeta gaming been? She feels underwhelming, for sure. Again, like, there are actually, like, I think it's a little, like, there are bright spots here. Charged, Reagan-Lev feels pretty good. She does at least have a throw bait, even if it's not very good, right? Like, her damage in certain scenarios is pretty fine, considering, like, how solid her normals are and shit like that. But, like, at best, though, she's underpowered, right? Like, at best, like, there is no world where I think I am going to come to the conclusion that, like, actually EX Djeeta is really good or anything like that. She needs a little bit more. She never feels... Again, maybe my problem is, like, Djeeta really... EX Djeeta, in particular. Djeeta, I think, is actually quite solid. Yes, she really is that bad. Here's maybe my problem, right? EX Djeeta feels like... It's like, well... How bad is it really? But that might... I mean, maybe that is bottom one in this game. I mean, at this point, right? Like, a character that just doesn't really have anything special for them and is just, like... They have, like, a solid kit of normals, and that's sort of it. I guess that might be the worst character in the game. Because, like, I think about it, and I go, come on. Like, she's got, like, a pretty solid far M, 2M, like, far L. Her far H is okay. Djeeta's far H is not great, right? Right? Like, meterless DP, low-hitting 6M, like, just, you know, decent walk, like, good walk speed, good move speed, 16k health. Right? But, I mean, maybe it's just the fact that she just doesn't do enough. Like, you need to have something. Like, this is a game where, you know, a lot of characters are actually quite good, and, like, the worst characters are not really that bad. So, like, the guy who just doesn't do very much of note maybe is that bad. You know? Maybe that's... Because to me, like, I've always thought, EX Djeeta can't be the worst character in the game. She's not even, like, you know, fundamentally broken or anything like that. But... I'm kind of no. You could argue that Nier is, like, not fundamentally broken, but, like, the of all the characters fucked over by Brave Counter, she might be the most fucked over by Brave Counter, right? But, like, there's no one who's really, like, character doesn't really exist in this game, I suppose. So if no one is gonna be, like, bottom one because they just, like, their moves don't work, or, like, they, like, can't use a system mechanic, which, again, Nier can't Raging Strike sometimes. Nier is, like, they did shoot her in the head on purpose, right? But outside of that, like, there really isn't characters like that in the video game. So it's like, maybe just being the character who's the thing that's fundamentally broken about you is, like, your risk rewards. I do always talk about, you know, fighting games are protracted risk reward simulators, right? So the character that just, you know, doesn't have good enough tools to get hits very often, and then even when they get those hits, they don't really get that much reward off of it. Like, maybe that is enough. Worst character in the game might just be a bit of a higher ceiling or a higher floor here than it is in some other games. Oh, shit! Oops. Also, why did I Raging Strike? I wasn't able to get a conversion there anyway. Ow, ow, ow. I don't want to get command grabbed in it. One good thing about this game is that the issues aren't really too big at the bottom end. It's like 7 or 8 characters that are just too much, especially based on the reward off BC. Other than that, everyone's at least decent. Not many others are too strong. Like, I guess, yeah. So I guess it's like... Ow, ow. It's not really that... Like not paradoxically, because bottom one is by definition, it's a relative term, right? Like, paradoxically, it's like EX Djeeta can be maybe, like, in contention for the worst character in the game and still not be, like, that ass, right? I think in my head, I always have to assume that, like, the worst character in the game is, like, turbo ass and, like, significantly worse than the rest of the cast. I guess it's not necessarily true. Sweet drinks? I love sweet drinks. Oh, clock! I forgot she had clock. No, man. Out. I think most modern fight games are like this. Bottom are just lackluster at worst. I suppose. Certainly, Rising was not like this for a long time. Right? Like, not even comparing to other fighting games, comparing to previous versions of Rising, this was not the case, right? I think that would have comboed, right? I think that DP hit late enough for them to combo off of with clock, maybe? Like, certainly even in earlier versions of Rising, this was not the case. Like, in a lot of the early versions of Rising, bottom one was a character that basically just didn't do anything, right? Launch Vikala. I mean, even launch Vikala, like launch Vayne, release Avatar Belial is I still think a hilarious character. Like that is a character. Imagine a character who got EX Djeeta's reward, but he spent 800 health to use every one of his specials. Like genuinely, he was not doing more damage than EX Djeeta most of the time. Ow. But he also spent his health, and he had 2k less HP than her. Also, I'm fucking dead. Oh, I'm not dead. Maybe you're dead. Give me your brave points. Worst character in the modern day is a mid-tier of the old times. Again, not true necessarily. Though maybe Rising was just released in a very bad... maybe Rising just released in a very bad state. Launch Lucy mechanic basically didn't exist with how hard it was to get it. Yeah, but Launch Lucy was not the worst character in the game. Ooh! Oop! Yeah, I think the game is definitely more top-heavy, right? Like, the problem is there are like a few outlier characters for sure. Launch Lucy wasn't even that bad? No, just under 2? Yeah, I would agree. Like, I don't think Launch Lucy was really even... Maybe I just was bad at the video game, and we were all bad at the video game and bad at evaluating characters, but Launch Lucy never felt like he was... I mean, there are just so many in... Like, by today's standards, probably sure, but there were so many characters in the 1.1 patch that just didn't, like, do anything. That I feel like Lucy still, you know, like, even like, Blade level 0 Lucy was a more solid character than a lot of release Rising characters. Launch Lucy's definition of a mid-tier? Yeah. Right? Like, you had Launch Anila, you had Launch Avatar Belial, Catalina got a lot of buffs, but Launch Catalina was not very good either, right, in Rising. There's a lot of characters who were just big eyebrow raisers, certainly. Don't hurt me, please. I don't want to get riding freed, Mom. Beep, bop, boop. It's me, EX Djeeta. Launch Zoe was the low tier. I forgot about Launch Catalina and Anila. Yeah, I mean, Anila was probably even worse off, but... And again, all of those characters to me were, like, noticeably better. People were talking about Launch Percy as well. Maybe. I could see it. I think Launch Percy was not that weak, though. I think he was certainly not good, but... But again, all of those characters to me, I feel like, probably take a big old steamy dump on Launch Avatar. That character was funny. The actual joke character. We thought Lawayne was the joke character? No, man. It was Avatar Belial. Avatar was actually a joke character on release. Like, they added him to the game when they let his EX specials extend his combos like that. Like, think about the fact that EX special buff, like, that packed Avatar's... The thing that where Avatar's packed follow-ups, like, become combo extenders if they are done off an EX special. That's, like, one of the biggest buffs that a character has ever gotten, and Avatar has still never been good. Right? Basically. Like, just like, oh, yeah, we, like, tripled your mid-screen damage. And he became, like, fine after that for, like, a long time. Terra and Fairy kind of didn't exist until Season 2? Yeah, I mean, they were certainly, like, Season 2, they got juiced to the gills, right? Matera and Fairy both did not feel super, especially even before they got their Season 2 buffs, the U skills just getting a lot less rewarding also, I think, helped them quite a lot. I thought Avatar was decent towards the beginning of Season 2 before the mid-tier buffs came through. Yeah. I'm talking about, like, release. Like, I'm talking about Avatar pre-Versuja patch where they added him to the video game. I think that was a genuine joke character. I don't think Matera and Fairy were as bad as people thought. I think post-Versuja patch, you're definitely right. I would agree. Like, even before, like, in hindsight, I definitely had them quite low, even after the Versuja patch. But I think in hindsight, post-Versuja patch, I feel like you're right. As far as Avatar has never been good, he was, like, solidly mid-tier for a patch or two. Yeah, that's my point. My point is that, like, that EX, like, the buff that they gave him in the Versuja patch is one of the biggest buffs that a character has ever received, and it made him a mid-tier, is my point. You know what I mean? Like, to think about, like, just to... I'm using that to illustrate how bad he was before he got that buff, right? He got one of the largest buffs in the game's history, and it made him a mid-tier. He was a joke character. Ow. EX Djeeta Gaming, indeed. Please don't riding free me, man. I'm scared. Why do you still have HP? That can't be allowed. I asked nicely. I asked nicely. I thought I would meet you with the fireball, and then when it didn't, I got a little scrambled, and oh, Jesus. Wasn't the whole game a Kusoge before the Matera patch? Like, kind of. But also, certainly, like, you could argue that there was still maybe there's a middle of pretty reasonable characters, but it was a lot smaller than it would be today, right? Like that, like if we talk about today, like mostly the problems are with the highest end, right? Certainly there was like a big swath of just like low tier like garbage in the beginning of the game. And again, there were like 5 characters that were, I mean, there was one character, obviously, who was like the goddess of the video game. But then there were also like, there were like 5 characters that were like genuinely, how did this happen? And then there were like 10 characters to 15 characters or something, like including those 5. That are also like just gapping most of the rest of the cast, right? So you ended up with like, there were like 10 pretty solid characters probably on Rising's release or something. You don't riding free me? I'm scared. I'm gonna respect riding free to hell and back, man. Oh, I got so scared. I got so scared. I got so scared. I don't know how strong he was, but turns out because of universal overhead, Lowain had unblockables in vanilla. Sounds very funny to mess with. The only thing I've seen about vanilla was was Lowain versus Percival, which apparently was a really, really funny bad matchup for Lowain. Apparently it was like Percival could just Grand Blue Zone him with like far M, far H into Fireball, and like 95% of Lowain's options lost, except for the one that got him like full comboed if he guessed wrong, or something like that. It's the only thing. I don't even know if that means Lowain wasn't good in vanilla, or if that matchup in particular was just really ass for him. But that was certainly very funny to watch. I remember Lowain being low tier forever in vanilla, perhaps. I'm not even saying like I disagree. I just don't know at all. I feel like the only things that I know about vanilla off the top of my head is that Belial was really good the whole time. Cagliostro was really good the whole time. Sorz was like horrible the whole time. That's like kind of it. I feel like those are like the things that I often hear. I've heard Ladiva could do some fuck shit in vanilla, but I'm not sure if that actually meant she was any good. Some things never change, huh? Sorz is pretty good right now. Though certainly Sorz has two big like problems. Like almost not even meta, like hard knockdown brave counter is a real big problem for Sorz. He's one of the characters that is certainly the most hurt by its existence. Like if hard knockdown BC is removed, which I hope, right? If they say adjustments to universal mechanics and they don't mean that BC is getting nerfed, and they don't mean that BC is getting nerfed by removing the hard knockdown on counter hit, I'll be very, very disappointed. But like, if they remove hard knockdown BC in the in the id patch, I suppose, 2.6 patch, then the biggest, like probably the biggest beneficiary of that is Sorz, right? That certainly hurts him quite a bit. And then obviously there's like a couple of Matera and fairy shaped holes in his heart, but that's a lot of characters' problems, to be fair. Like a lot, like it's like, oh, you know, one of Sorz's biggest problems is he has a little bit of a hard time, well, a lot of a hard time against like Matera, Fairy, Lowain, etc. And it's like, well, yeah, that's most of the meta, right? That's most characters. Like that is really like, you could argue that like one of the biggest reasons that like Beatrix is as good as she is because she's one of the handful of characters for whom that isn't true. While still, and she doesn't like pay a horrible price for it or anything like that. It's not like a oh, this character is good against these characters but shit against everyone else. It's like, no, she's still pretty good against everyone else. But unlike most of the cast, she doesn't just fold to these 3 to 4 characters immediately. And in fact, even has a good matchup into it. Probably most of it, maybe all of them. Oh shit, that doesn't link, man. Damocles. Oh, nice. Talk about a risk-reward gap, huh? That's not a brave counter. It's not a correct one anyway. Oh, thank God he doesn't have Raging Strike, huh? Oh, your fireball's too slow. Personally, I don't think 6L really needs a nerf right now, but I kind of want one. Just 'cause I'm seeing people who don't play complaining about it again. I really want the misconception that it's ruining the game still to die. I think I am on board. Again, my big problem with 6XL, actually, at this point, is as a corner pressure tool. I really don't think it's as much of a problem in neutral these days. I've talked about it a couple times, but I would love... I heard Gabba make the suggestion of making 6XL 2L clash level. I think that's an amazing suggestion. I think that's so good. And I also want that shit to be, like, bad if you hit someone in the air with it. I don't want it to... I don't know how exactly we do this, but that shit should not be, like, as good of an anti-air as it is. You know what I mean? Like, either it needs to be, like, minus if it's air blocked or something, or it needs to just... Like, first, it needs to be air blockable, for sure. I feel it. I think 6XL, like, definitely needs to be air blockable. This, by the way, coming in conjunction with a BC nerf, right? Because you definitely don't want to just... Like, BC is still the strongest. Like, BC is stronger than 6XL is, right? So if we're gonna, like, nerf an offensive mechanic, I'm more so definitely saying it in conjunction with a nerf to BC. But, like, that shit definitely needs to be air blockable at least, and, like, maybe it needs to be, like, minus on block if I air block it or something, you know? But really, I really don't think that 6XL is actually as much of a problem as some people make it out to be. It's still certainly very strong, but my main want is to make 6XL more whiff punishable. You certainly could do that too. I don't think it's like egregiously hard to do right now. Obviously, you do get preemptively, but like, so, I mean, that's kind of how it works with everything, right? And it still has like significant. It has more whiff recovery than like any normal, obviously. Please reduce the clash level that crushes Setsuna. I definitely think I love the idea of the 0 clash level, the 2L. So it clashes with 2 Ls, but if you stick a far L out, it'll crush it and you'll get a counter hit. That sounds absolutely wonderful to a guy like me. Okay. Beat, bop, boop, perish. Increased pushback on air hits? Ooh, maybe. That's an interesting idea. It definitely needs to be... I think it needs to be air blockable entirely. Maybe increase pushback on air block, actually. I don't know. Kind of funny how broken old skills are, and they could definitely use a nerf, but it never gets talked about because BC and 6XL exists. No, it never gets talked about because they've been nerfed like 3 times. Right? It never gets talked about because like old skills as like a concept got nerfed like 3 separate times or something like that. So, like, the concept of alt skills is rarely the problem anymore, right? It is just more so individual standouts is often what you're going to see discussion on. Like Eustace U Grenade or like Matera U Butterfly or something like that, right? The alt skill system as a whole right now is probably pretty solid, actually. I'm a big fan. You could argue that, like, I liked 125-meter combos, but I definitely understand why they got removed, right? I don't think they had to, but I see why. But, like, you could argue, like, the existence of 125-meter combos, the huge reward off of just landing a raw ult skill as a combo starter, things like that, were, like, system-wide problems with ult skills, right? I don't think there really are too many of those anymore. Maybe even any of those anymore. Some people will say that they don't want ult skills to refund on block, right? Like, so if you block an ult skill, they shouldn't get 12.5% meter back. Maybe, right? The only old skill nerf I'd want is to be universally less safe on block. I would have taken, personally, I would have taken that. I thought that all alt skills should have been one route they could have gone, in my opinion, instead of, maybe, again, maybe the 125-meter combos is a problem, even less so because, like, even less than the game balance implications, maybe it was a problem because it limits design space, right? Like, certainly 125-meter combos got removed, and then Versuja got added to the game. Versuja is a character that cannot be allowed to exist in the video game if she doesn't have meter penalty when she hits you with a U skill, right? Like, if Versuja got put, like, there's a solid argument that, like, even outside of game balance, the 125-meter combos limit the design space for what you can let characters do. Now, you could say, maybe that's a good thing. If you're tired of, like, the U skill, like, mid-screen creep, where everyone gets a crumple, everyone gets a launch, everyone gets a combo extension, you probably can't really have that in the game too much if they're also getting, like, full like straight up refunds on their meter as they do it, right? So maybe it would have led to less of that. Why wouldn't Versuja be allowed to exist? Because Versuja would spend like 175 meter in her combos or some shit. She had, like she would get like a triple or quadruple dog walk with her 2-2-U. If you don't recall, I mean, Versuja can still do this, but it's a little bit less meaningful for her now. But when Versuja, like, you know, Versuja would go, you can go auto combo 2-2-U, auto combo 6XL, auto combo 2-2-U, 6XL, auto combo 2-2-U. If the post hitting a U skill meter penalty wasn't a thing, which is how they got rid of ult skills in the Versuja patch, right? The patch which came out, right? If that wasn't a thing, that would have been like, she would have spent like 25 meter and gotten 20 back on like every one of those loops or something like that, right? Like it genuinely, she would have gotten 4 or 5 of those ult skills off before she launched you. Probably, maybe 3 or 4. She would have gotten like 3 or 4 2-2-Us off before she launched you. And that probably would have, and without the extra scaling on an ult skill starter too, if you got hit by like a raw 2-2-U, she might TOD you before you leave the ground. Like for real. Right? Characters with that many like grounded extender, like easy access grounded extension, like crumple U skills would be ridiculous if they didn't pay a meter penalty for it. Because you know what that is right now? I can show you an example of that. That's, imagine if what Metera does off U Butterfly, everyone could do. Right? It's the best example for it is Metera in a lot of cases, well, not a lot of cases, in some cases, Metera still does 125 combos. Right? So, like the damage that you get hit by when you get hit by U Butterfly and you go, man, I fucking hate this. Rightfully so. Imagine if that was like everyone. Right? Or like at least a lot of the cast. Like a lot of the cast would have some shit like that if the meter penalty wasn't the thing. Because I mean that's literally what Metera does. Metera just waits out the meter penalty because the U Butterfly is out for longer than the meter penalty exists. So that's like a great way to think about it. And then again, right? Like Versuja, I mean, she would hit even harder than Metera did, right? It's not that she's bad, she has nothing that makes her special. Like, cool, her charge EX Fireball's +8, but who cares? Her damage is feathers. I don't even know, like, I don't even know if it's her damage is the problem. It's just, well, it's certainly if she did more damage, that'd be one way to fix it. But it just feels like EX Djeeta, it's kind of just, she just has no specialty, right? Like, explain this in Pathfinder 2nd Edition terms. There's no, like, she has no niche. Right? Like, even if she's, like, a great example, I think, like, a great comparison point to her actually is Nier, right? Which is a character who I think most people agree is quite weak, right? Maybe even comparably weak to EX Djeeta. But, like, at the very least, like, yes, Nier has a lot of problems. She has way more problems than EX Djeeta does, like, by a long shot, right? But Nier and just fucking kill you sometimes, right? Like, Nier does have a specialty. She's, like, the highest damage character in the game. If you ignore the death, like, if you ignore the penalty that, like, is being Nier and playing around the death mechanic, she is just, like, the hardest hitting character in the game, right? So, like, it's at least, it gives her a win condition, I suppose. Not even a win condition, but it's like, because I think people use the word like, oh, this character doesn't have a win condition. I heard someone say that about Sandalphon one time, and I was like, yeah, sure, man, whatever you say. Right? Yes, you're right. Sandalphon definitely doesn't have a win condition, for sure. But like, it's not so much a win condition, more so a game plan. Like, what is, you know, like, what is Djeeta doing? You know, like if you're a character that gets, if you're like, for example, you know, Catalina, she excels at getting extremely high reward off of her like mid-range pokes. So Catalina ends up being a character who like plays around the mid-range, right? She has good buttons there, so she plays around the mid-range and tries to kill you with the pokes. Far M into you, fireball until you go to hell, and then everyone in the game likes it when you're in the corner, right? So she gets you to the corner and then kills you there. That's what most of the cast does. But her game plan at round start is I'm gonna get you there by like poking at you, right? Ladiva, right? For as weak as she is, she does still have a game plan revolving around, okay, I have like one of the stupidest advantage states in the video game still. Is Brave Counter a problem for that? Yes, etc. Can things be a problem? Yeah, but it is still, you know, it's a fact that Ladiva, like that command grab, like waking up into Ladiva in the corner is a scary fucking thing, and she can just kill you in 2 guesses, right? So like she plays around, you know, even if she's gonna take some lumps, even if she's gonna take some hits, even if she's gonna take some losses, she has her really high corner carry, right? She can lose the round for most of it and then just hope for the one hit where she puts you in the corner and one chances off of it. Is that a super strong game plan? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not. I mean, not really in D.Va's case, but it's a game plan, right? Her kit pushes her towards an identity which determines how she plays the video game. EX Djeeta, again, it's not like anything on her is really that horrible, right? But because some things are, I mean, the lariat is very, like, the lariat's pretty bad, right? Like, Aurum Flow is pretty not good. But outside of that, it's not like anything's really too bad, but nothing is, like, exceptional enough that it makes an identity for her, right? And sometimes the thing that is exceptional about a character is that all of my shit is above average, right? That's what, like, a lot, you know, like, a lot of characters just, like, nothing about me is crazy, but, like, all my shit's above average, you know? So my game plan is just to kind of just outstat you on, like, at, like, every portion of the video game by a little bit, right? Like, I'm not, I think Samplefon is like maybe a great example of this, right? Like, his mid-screen is not the craziest, his corner pressure is not the craziest, right? His move speed isn't the craziest, his fireball is not the craziest. Like, really, nothing on him is, like, the best shit you've ever seen, but everything on him is pretty good. Like, Samplefon doesn't really have a bad move or a bad normal or a bad special, right? So, like, his thing is just like, yeah, I'm probably going to be, like, unless it's another, like, even compared to the other mid-range characters, he's more competent to full screen than them, right? He has better anti-zoning than they do. It's like, his idea is just like, I'm gonna be slightly better than you in most parts of the video game, and unless you are, like, a jack of all trades like me, there's probably one part of the screen where I'm way better than you, right? And I'm gonna try and harp on that. She can't even do that because, like, in most places, she's actually a little worse than most characters, right? She's not terrible at anything, but she's not particularly special at anything, and she's not good enough at everything else to make up for not having a specialty.